Hey sugar, welcome back. I'm Rox of Rockstar Bakes, and this week I have a super quick tutorial on how to make a galactic galaxy themed cake with stars to the max. Let's get into it. Save this video or screenshot for this tool card. I have videos where I share cake recipes in 4 formats, so you can choose the one that fits best for your project. For the black space, I use 1 portion of my black cocoa round cake recipe. For the planets, I use 1 portion of my vanilla mini cupcakes recipe. I also use my Swiss meringue buttercream recipe, a cake-sized portion, which will make sense when you see the video linked in the description below. All recipes that I use for this video are going to be linked in the description below. For the supplies, I use a half-sphere mold, food color paste in any color of your choice, spoon or angled spatula, and toothpicks. After I make the inside of the cake, I also include a bonus on how I decorate this cake. Starting with the planets, split the mini vanilla cupcake batter in half. With the first half of the batter, split this into separate bowls and add 2 drops of color. I mix red, yellow, green, blue, purple, and indigo, and I mix just until there are no streaks left. It's not a big deal to share spatulas with colors that are adjacent on a color wheel. I wipe most of the color off in between. Now, with the remaining half of the cupcake batter, I separate them back into these colors. I do these 2 separate steps because 1, I can adjust color as needed. It's easier to add than take away color. 2, this gives me the most even distribution of color. After mixing, I fill my piping bags. If you don't have piping bags, have no fear, fill a Ziploc bag. Works just the same for this process. Since I'm filling so many piping bags, I actually use a couple of pint glasses for this step. Makes it way easier and the process goes way quicker. I saved a little red and yellow to combine and make orange. I did this so it seemed like they were still in the same color family. Then I get my half sphere molds. I use 2 sizes of molds, but I recommend using the smaller one if you're just choosing one. The first one I make is a planet Earth. It's green and blue. I make patches along the sides with green and fill the rest with blue to represent the ocean. I don't think you can go wrong with this part at all. I try to add no more than 3 colors per mold so it's easy to see the colors. If you have a second, take some time to hit that like and subscribe button so I can keep making these videos each week. And with these other 2, I use a spiral and then a zigzag. With the zigzag, I add a little red and use a spoon or spatula to push the color to the side. I want the center to be a different color, so you'll see that when you're cutting through the cake. Throughout the process, I try to keep the filling as level as possible because this cake does not expand too much. It stays relatively level. Remove any weird large bubbles. Bang the cake a few times. I keep the mold on the pan while doing this because the mold is all floppy. It's way easier. For some of the designs, I use a skewer. So just a reminder, if you're using my recipes, you can follow the mini cupcake recipe directions, but double the time in the oven. I found my sphere molds at TJ Maxx for a super good deal. They were on clearance, so definitely try to find them there. But in any case, I link where you can find them on Amazon in the description below. What I really like about using a sphere mold is that when I remove the planets, they pop out super easily. Now I distribute into 5-inch lined pans. This section is a little tricky, but we'll get through it, I promise. To make the process easier, I line a large baking pan and number the parchment. You can definitely make this recipe in just 3 tins. You will just want to use the black cocoa mini cupcake recipe for the black space part of the cake. I've never tried this cake project with larger size cake tins, so I can't say what that should look like in terms of proportions. For my black cocoa cake, aka Oreo cake recipe, I don't butter or grease the sides of the tins so the cake can crawl up the sides and be light and fluffy. Banging the cake pans is important because it helps everything settle in. This is the section where I use the toothpicks that I mentioned in the tool card. Remember the open face planet from layer 1 of the cake? Well, on layer 2, I place the second half down so it'll meet like a whole planet. I add a toothpick to where I want there to be an entire planet meeting between the cakes. I used an angled spatula to level the cake as much as possible. I just realized I didn't clarify. The toothpicks are there so that when we're done baking, we can find where the planets should match. Bang, 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 the cake. Layer 3, I use a toothpick technique again, and don't worry, we'll be pulling these out. I think it's really hard to go wrong with this cake. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Don't worry about the cakes that are sticking out. You can use black cocoa Swiss meringue buttercream in between the layers being stacked to keep the extended black space. You'll see in the bonus. So here's what I mentioned earlier. I number the parchment paper so I don't lose track of the cake numbering. 2 matches to 1, 3 matches to 2, 5 matches to 4. And yours might be different. Here's a tip. I use separate toothpicks and insert into the batter to make sure I fill to about the same height, because all of the planets are different sizes, so it's hard to gauge without doing this. These are more or less the same. Ta-da! Here are the baked cakes. If you're using my black cocoa cake recipe, bake for about 30 to 35 minutes at 335 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's the bonus. For decorating a galaxy cake, I use a cake board, a piping bag, a cake scraper, an angled spatula, gold or silver leaf, edible paint in black, tiny edible star sprinkles. This is a unique galaxy cake. I've filled, crumb-coated to lock crumbs, and frosted the cake because this is more about the inner galaxy cake. I haven't heard from anyone that they'd like a Cake 101 or basics video, so I think we're good to start here. I love a super tall cake. Always have and always will. I started decorating by adding edible gold and silver leaf. So at a craft store, there's gold leaf, but it's usually not edible, so I ordered this online. You need to look for food-grade edible gold or silver leaf. The leaf comes in sheets, and I use clean, dry fingers to transfer little pieces to the cake. I add the leaf in a few angled columns. I try to keep some space so I can paint some constellations. For painting the star constellations, I use a food-only brush and edible food paint in black. I put just a few drops of the edible food paint in a small bowl and just tap lightly with the brush. I try to use some real constellations randomly placed. I also really like including random clusters of dots. Baking and decorating success.
I love to feature my favorite posts on my Instagram stories, so tag me on Instagram if you were inspired by this cake. I'd love to see what you're up to. In the meantime, I hope you have a stellar week and I will see you next Saturday. Bye!